Hey fam, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be creating my very own custom palette inspired by the Urban Decay Wild Greens palette. I had posted a survey on my community tab asking you guys to vote on what video you'd like to see on my channel next, and my blush collection and small declutter won. But the second runner up was to create this little custom palette. I pulled in my indie singles, my Colourpop singles, also just palettes around my collection with removable pans. And I'm also going to create this look for you guys using the shades from this palette. Also, please be sure to check my community tab because I do plan on putting another poll up this week to see what video you guys might want to see next. I find your feedback so inspiring and motivating, so please do stay tuned for that. If you enjoy this video while you're watching it, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That helps me to know the types of videos that you guys enjoy. And if you guys like this video, I already have another palette I might be interested in recreating, so just let me know in the comments down below. And also, if you're interested in seeing more content from me, I'd love to have you subscribe. So if this video sounds interesting to you, go ahead and stay tuned. We're gonna get into it right now. I want to take inspiration from the Wild Greens from Urban Decay and create my own version of it. So the first thing that I think that we should do is pull some shades that I think might work with this palette. I'm going to go through this part quickly and then we'll go ahead and look at the shades together. So looking at the palette, the very first shade looks to be like a shimmery champagne-y color. And I thought that this shade from the Biba palette, which is called Shine, might be perfect. Then there's a shade called Lo-Fi, which is kind of like a peachy pink. And I thought that this shade from Colourpop might be a nice option. This is the shade Dreammaker from the Colourpop Sweet Talk palette. Next, there's like a brown matte called Kickback. And I thought that this shade, it's got a little bit of shimmer in it, but it's kind of got a reddish undertone. I thought that might be kind of perfect for this, which is Big Brooch from the Good as Gold palette. Then there's like a pretty gold metallic called Fuzz. And I think this shade, possibly from the Natasha Denona Gold palette, the shade Brass might be an option. It may be a little less gold, but it's like gold with a green tinge. Perhaps a coppery gold might be a better choice. So let's go back into the Metropolis palette, and I think maybe this shade. That's really pretty. That's the shade Penny. Then the next shade is Turmeric, which looks to be kind of like a bright orange. And I thought that this shade might be really pretty. I believe this is from the Colourpop Orangey Glad palette, and this is the shade Mimosa Mommy. Then there's a shade called High Vibe, which is like a shimmery mauvey pink color. And I thought that this shade from the Sunset palette from Natasha Denona might be perfect. And this is the shade Atmosphere. Then there's like a dusty mauve tone. And I was between a couple. And this shade is from the Natasha Denona Biba palette. It's the shade Buff. And then I also have these two Colourpop shades that I pulled. We've got W8, which is the shade Sidetracked from the X's and O's palette. Then there's the shade Super Greens, which looks to be kind of like a pale green, but I actually like this color better. This is from Menagerie Indigo Ink, and it's the shade Nori. Then there's like a minty color called Prickly, and I don't have a ton of those types of shades, but I did have this one from Ofra, and this is the shade Fresh from the Good to Go palette. And then there was like a grungy metallic olive. Let's swatch a couple of these. It's like olive with like a red undertone. I know it looks like brighter on camera. We have this one from Colourpop. Not quite grungy enough. What about this one from the Metropolis palette? I think that's our winner, like a grungy olive. And this is the shade Shield from the Metropolis palette. Next is the shade Kale, which is essentially just like kind of a matte olive green. And I had a couple options for this as well. Not a ton. We have this one from the Metropolis palette. So let's look at Lethal from the Metropolis palette, which I think is really beautiful. And then we also have this one from Kaleidos from the Futurism 1 palette. And this is the shade Smog. I think I'm gonna go with Lethal from Metropolis. And then the last shade is Stash, which is like a dark olive green. And I think for that I wanna use this shade, which is from the Just My Luck Colourpop palette, and it's the shade Charmed. So first let's go ahead and swatch out these colors, see what they look like, and then we can kind of see what we wanna sprinkle in from this side to make this whole palette a little bit more interesting, since we're able to customize and make this our own. So here are all the shades that I think kind of represent what is in the Vivid Greens palette from Urban Decay. But now let's look at the other colors I pulled and see what we can add to make this a bit more interesting. So something that truly caught my eye right away about this palette is the mixture of greens and oranges. I wouldn't have necessarily thought to put like mauve with those shades, but I wanted to incorporate them so that we could have a representation of the color story. However, I'm definitely interested in adding a bit more orange. So I have a few mattes from Colourpop, and I think combined with the bright orange shade from the Orangey Glad palette, I think it's Mimosa Mommy, I think this would be really pretty. So we have Hooky from the X's and O's palette, we have GNO from the Yes Please palette, and we have Creamsicle from the Orangey Glad palette. I also thought it was really interesting that they incorporated this sort of minty shade, but there's not really anything else minty to play around with that mint shade. So I think maybe this mint matte, which is Chances Are from the Just My Luck palette, would be really pretty. And then I also think these two shades, which are kind of like greeny teal colors. This one is Touch of Glam, Mirror Mirror. And this one is from the Metropolis palette from Natasha Denona. And it is the shade Jubilee, and adds a little bit more dimension to the palette overall. I really love these shimmery orange shades. I have one from Looksy, which is Caterpillar, And then I have this one from the Menagerie Indigo Ink palette. And this is also the shade Shell Yeah. I think we pulled one of those earlier. So this is Shell Yeah and Caterpillar. And they're very similar. Caterpillar has like a touch more green reflect to it, whereas Shell Yeah is just a bit thicker and more orange, but they'd be very similar on the eye. I think I want to go with Caterpillar. I like that shift. And then I definitely want to incorporate some of these Clionadh shadows. I pulled two of them. I have Burnish and Foiling. I think they would both be beautiful. This one has a bit more like peachy red in it, and then this one's very shimmery and beautiful. I also think it might be nice just to have like a standard gold shade. This is from the Natasha Denona Gold palette, and it's the shade Oro. This is another one from Luxie. This is Angel Wings. And I like that this was like pink and green, and kind of minty too. I think that could be kind of interesting. And then let's take a look at some of these square pans. This one is Natasha Denona Lime Chrome, which I definitely think would be a great addition. This one is Brass. And I think Lime Chrome adds something a little bit unique. I also like this shade from Colourpop. This is French Kiss from the Yes Please palette. And I think with these mauve tones, it could be like a nice deepener. I definitely don't need these pinks. This is the shade from Menagerie that I was thinking of. I think it's like a red-green duochrome. I think that's really, really pretty. Pop him in there. And then we only have a little bit of room left. I kind of think that this light matte sagey olive would be a good choice. This is from Menagerie from the Feral palette, and it's the shade Fenris. I also think this creamy matte from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. This is the shade Troop, would be a really nice addition. Then the shade Orium from the Metropolis palette would also be really pretty. It's like a peachy green. And then I'm left with a couple more olive tones. I'm thinking this color, Celesta from Divina, would be beautiful. I have to rearrange these colors. And I have this olive matte from Kaleidos. This is the shade Smog, and I think this could be a really good addition if there's room for it. And we'll put these remaining shades from Colourpop back, and I'm gonna rearrange this palette and see if I can get it to all fit. Yay! So this is our finished palette. I think this looks so beautiful. I'm so excited to play with this. This whole color story is super duper inspiring to me. What do you guys think? Oh, I think it's so pretty. Let's go ahead and swatch this out. So this is the whole palette swatched out. Look at all these beautiful colors and textures. I am so excited. And I had all of these shades already just in my collection waiting to be loved. And the Urban Decay palette is $44. So a little bit of time spent searching through my collection saved me, and I think that my time is absolutely worth that, and getting a palette that's so much more exciting than the one offered by Urban Decay, in my humble opinion. So I'm gonna keep this camera angle in tight because if y'all could see the pile of laundry behind me that needs to be folded, y'all would be shook. But I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing me create my very own custom palette inspired by the Urban Decay Wild Greens palette, and I hope you enjoyed seeing me create this look today. I had a lot of fun playing with makeup and doing a more dramatic look again. I haven't done one of these in a minute. I wanted to use as many of the shades on my eyes as I could and just show you guys sort of the the inspiration I felt with the combination of oranges and greens. I love being able to get more use out of my indie shadows and being able to incorporate them into a color story that really inspires me. I hope that this was helpful and inspiring for y'all to dig into your own collection and see what you have if a certain palette or color story catches your eye. Another great practice is, even if you still want the palette, even if you're not on a no or low buy like myself, I think practicing with some of the colors in your collection, making sure that if you had that kind of a color story, you would actually use it before you invest in an eyeshadow palette, can just be a really good practice, just to make sure to really vet that color story before you invest your hard-earned money. But that's all from me today. I thank you all so much for being here with me today. I love you all so much, and until the next video, bye-bye.